Cheers! For time with our Yeti mugs. Does yours say anything on it?
No, it's just plain. It says Yeti.
You're just a plain Jane?
Yeah, just plain,
This is the
girl.
old school Naptown one. Today we are going to be talking about stimulus. And what that means in the world of fitness.
Yes.
And Anna is going to be taking us on that deep dive.
It's going to be a journey.
Of stimuli. Stimuli, stimulus.
Well, stimulus is...
Stimuluses?
Stimuli would be if we're talking about plural. But we're just...
Where do you want to go? How do you want to jump off?
Oh my gosh. I think we can talk about energy pathways, get a little like nerdy first. So there are 3 main metabolic pathways. And the first one is the glycolytic pathway. And this is like what you're thinking about if you were doing like a very short sprint. Like we'll say this energy system is typically used up in like 10 seconds. So it is like a fast burst and then this energy system is gone. So we're thinking like a max effort lift, really fast sprint. Those are essentially what pathway, what movements and what activities are going to hit that pathway. Then we are into the anaerobic pathway. That is anything that's like beyond that 10-second mark and up to about like 3 to 5 minutes is when that anaerobic system is going to be the main energy system. And then anything beyond 5 minutes starts to get less and less anaerobic and more aerobic. So
aerobic is what most people think about when they think about fitness.
Totally, yeah. And I would say that's what most people, like most of the time, we're probably spending more time in that system. But it's important to train all of those systems. So I think that's one of the reasons why what we do at Myriad is so effective is we do all of those things. We do really heavy lifting where we're testing how much force we can generate in a very short period of time. And we do workouts that are in that short 3 to 5 minute range. And I think that's where a lot of like really good fitness gains happen. And not that the aerobic pathway isn't valuable, it's awesome and important as well. But I think most people could probably use more time in the anaerobic pathway.
Yeah, and one thing I want to throw out there, when I was learning all this back in the day, one of the things I used is like kind of like a running guide. So it was like, 100 meters or less was, the glycolytic, because I could, nowadays can't run 100 meters in 10 seconds, but like was close to that back in the day. But that helped me realize that. And then same thing with like an 800 meter or less.
Yeah, 400,
would be
800.
in the anaerobic. And then anything like, a mile or more, or 5K, or anything of that range would be more of the aerobic, and keeping your heart rate relatively steady and not redlining. So that was a good way to kind of think about those.
Yeah.
The cool thing is people watching this don't need to know any of that, because you and your programmers are the ones that are doing that work and doing that effort. So sometimes we see things where it's like just a 3-minute workout or a quick sprint. And people are like, oh, this is a short workout, or this is boring today. But we have to do that in order to improve our overall GPP, which is
general physical preparedness.
And that's us running away from the zombie apocalypse when that happens. So we want to be good at everything and all systems be good throughout.
That's a great example. And if you want to think about like, okay, when in the zombie apocalypse do I need all of those things?
Are you going to take us down?
I am. I'm going to take us down that rabbit hole. So let's say Jared and I are in a zombie apocalypse and there is a car on Jared.
Can Richie be with us?
Richie can be with us because Lord knows that is who we want with us in that scenario. He's the first person I'm calling. Maybe even before my husband.
Kyle would be pretty good.
He'd be pretty good too. Yeah. Hopefully we're together when we call him. So let's say we're together, zombie apocalypse is happening, and a car has fallen on Jared. I need that glycolytic, like fast, short burst of energy to be able to lift that car up enough off of him that he can get out from underneath and we can be on our way. Now let's say a zombie is chasing us and we are a short to medium distance away from, let's say, a brick building that we can climb up and over to get to safety. That's where we want that anaerobic.
I love that you call that like a brick building.
I don't know,
like
that feels, it's a brick building. Well, because I feel like a fence they might be able to get through or something.
Sure.
We need that, harder intensity effort where we can push faster for, more than a minute to
3 to 4 minutes.
Burst, get fast to that brick wall, have enough energy left to climb up and over it, and then get to safety. And then, because zombies generally are not likely fast moving, we also need that oxidative, that long-term aerobic pathway where we can keep moving, staying ahead of the zombies once we've reached that kind of initial safety point. So again, that's like a silly example, but an example of how you can utilize all of those pathways in the real world, and it's beneficial to train all of them. There's a lot of examples in kind of the CrossFit level 1 of if you overtrain one area, you're probably going to be really weak in another area. So they often describe the example of a marathon runner who has a really, really short vertical jump because they're so strong in the aerobic pathway. They can go for a really long time for a pretty quick pace, but you're still training the aerobic pathway, that they don't have any of those fast twitch, glycolytic pathway moments where they can generate a lot of force and have a decent vertical jump. And then the opposite is also true, where if you have someone like a power lifter who can they're really, really strong in the glycolytic pathway, they can generate a lot of force in a short period of time by executing a really heavy max lift, but we're going to have a really struggle fest trying to run a marathon or doing anything kind of beyond a few minutes time if you are in that, if you're really skilled in that one pathway. So again, our goal is to train all of them.
One thing I want to call out is like the why is this important? So I love when I'm doing like the whiteboard brief before a class, when a student, a member, an athlete asks like, what should the stimulus be, or what should my goal be? And just so everyone knows, in boot camp and CrossFit specifically, every single night there's a programming email that goes out to the coaches, and the coaches follow this guide or this lesson plan, session plan, and in it calls out like what the stimulus should be. And a workout, for example, yesterday where it was like a quick fast row, 20-25 cals into 12 overhead squats, which was meant to be relatively unbroken for those overhead squats. That's meant to be a sprint. So that's kind of like, that's not glycolytic, that's definitely anaerobic because you're probably within a 2 to 3 minute range. But like if people didn't know that, some people might have tried to RX the overhead squat and taken them forever and been like 4 or 5 plus minutes, and now you're almost in an aerobic, which is not what we're trying to achieve there. So as you as an athlete have the agency to ask the coaches like, hey, what should this feel like? What are the weight ranges we're looking for, percentages we're looking for? And that's gonna help you achieve the stimulus we're looking for that workout.
I think that's a good kind of segue into, like, we have time caps in workouts for a reason. It is to help us find and maintain that stimulus. I think sometimes people feel like the time caps are there to, keep class running on time, or
which is sometimes
to a certain extent, or like to be mean almost, like to prevent someone from doing something like as prescribed. And there are certainly days where I think it's valuable to push to that time cap, to push yourself towards that RX kind of check-in, see with where you're at. But if you're constantly finding yourself running up against that time cap, then that's a moment for you to kind of check in and say, okay, where can I adjust things to get closer to the intended stimulus? One of the like classic workouts I think about this with is in CrossFit, the workout Fran. Yep. It's 21-15-9 of thrusters and pull-ups. And typically we cap that workout at 7 minutes because it is meant to be a fast sprint-like effort. I remember the very first time that I was able to do that workout unbroken, where I didn't set the barbell down at all and I didn't come off the pull-up bar during the 21, 15, and 9 reps. And it felt so different from every other time that I did the workout, just because I really, truly got into that feeling of using up that anaerobic system and pushing myself to that level. That's something I talk about a lot of times with people is those are the workouts to me that are the most challenging, is when I'm really gassing out that system compared to some of the workouts that we think of being really hard, like a Murph. That's a really long workout, mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, mile run. That's a hard workout. It's a lot of work, but when I finish, I'm not going to be laying down on the ground dying, because I can't. It's too long of a workout to push yourself that hard.
Yeah. Well, you might still be laying on the ground dying
sure.
After that workout.
I can get up and I don't know. Anytime I've done Fran, I'm like on the ground for 10 minutes before I can summon energy again.
For sure,
so
I know
it's a
what
little
you mean,
different
from
feeling.
like the red line, like in the moment versus like red line for a long period of time. So. Cool. Well, thank you. There's a lot on this topic.
Yeah, we could go on and on.
Yeah, we'll come back to it at another point in time, but we wanted to get that out there just to talk, about some of the programming that's been happening, as well as the Super Meet that's coming up. So if you are watching this still, Super Meet, December 16th, that's a completely different energy system. That's going to tap you out and make you tired in a different way, so to speak.
Sure.
So awesome. Thank you all for listening.
Cheers.
Boom.
3, 2, 1 time.